In human design, gate two is called the direction of the self. And it is definitely about determining the correct direction for yourself or your vehicle, not just geographically, but also metaphorically. So, where are you really going? What are you meant to head towards in life? It's sort of a visionary gate. It holds the ability also to help other people find their own correct direction in life too, or at least help them find the next step. But this is really just the beginning of Gate 2, which is such a fascinating energy and is also the conscious sun gate of someone I know and is here with us right now. You can't see her because this is just an audio, but this is our friend Destiny Swinney. So Destiny has been kind enough to agree to share some personal insight about this gate from her own experience, and I'm excited to hear what you have to say about it. We've talked a little bit about it on the podcast, but we can really dig into this one specifically here, which is what I'm stoked about. So, whatever you're thinking, lay it on us. But, since you come at this from a Gene Keys perspective, since you are a Gene Keys extraordinaire, would you like to maybe talk a little bit about the Gene Keys? They always start with the shadow. So why not? We can talk about the shadow experience and maybe you can tell us a little bit about that and then how you've experienced the gift too.
Yeah, of course, I would love to. Okay, yeah. So from the lens of the gene keys, the shadow. So there's three different energetic layers to this gate, this key, this hexagram. And so with the shadow, what we're starting out with is the shadow of dislocation. And the shadow of dislocation is really, it's kind of to put it simply, a foundational distrust in life, a distrust within oneself, a distrust in the direction that you are going or where you are even at right now. How this can show up, because it is a part of the G center, it's a part of, connecting to love, identity, and direction. We can distrust ourselves in terms of like even the simplest things of making decisions, which I know is something that I've really struggled with through the course of my own life, of like really the just trusting myself to make a decision that is in highest alignment for me and that will lead me to you know kind of living out a journey and living out an identity that feels correct for me, that feels in alignment, that makes me feel a sense of love. And there's also been a lot of distrust in, where I am at, or kind of like what life has presented to me in that way. And we can kind of like get into this very depressive energy when we look at it through the lens of even if we do the gene keys, but especially when we look at it through the lens of through human design. This is a part of the individual circuitry, and anything within the individual circuitry creates deep melancholy. And the two and the one, which are like the prime foundations for everything, they're programming partners. It's the divine feminine and it's the divine masculine. Both of these, are aspects that kind of create this ever flowing cycle back and forth between yielding and surrendering and softening and trusting into then kind of, overflowing into that masculine energy of the gate one, where it becomes action and creativity and freshness and beauty. And in those lower times when we're experiencing those melancholic lulls, or especially when we're in that shadow of distrust where we're not trusting ourselves, we're not trusting life and the direction that life has for us, be that personally or even larger, like collectively, like trusting what is happening for, the whole, right? It goes beyond us, because when we move up into the highest aspects of it, where we're moving is from a state of dislocation to orientation to unity. And the highest aspect of unity is when we are literally in a state of feeling connected and in a state of unity, in a state of oneness with everything, with everyone, with ourselves, with others, and with life. And so I love one of the things that he says in the Gene Keys, that really, you can never make a wrong decision. you can never be in the wrong place. Like there is no such thing as wrong. Like when we're in that state of distrust, we're really in a state of this is wrong, right? Like to whatever degree that is. And one of the things he talks about is like that's not even possible. That there is at no point in your life have you ever been in the wrong place, making the wrong decision, doing the wrong thing. That there is always a higher purpose and a higher reason and a higher direction to everything, right? Because when we're looking at the state of unity, everything is connected. So nothing can be wrong. You can't be out of place because everything is connected. And so for me personally, I have this in a third line, which is trial and error. So a lot of how this has looked for me is having these moments in life where I believe that I'm making the wrong decision or I have made the wrong decision. And I experience some level of quote unquote failure, right? Something happened, something's gone wrong. Now there's turbulence, now there's chaos. And I'm like, oh no, I just fucked everything up. But every single time I've had one of those scenarios, whether it's very quickly after or it's many years down the line, I can always look back and go, oh, like I either learned a lesson within that experience that I deeply needed to learn to create further alignment within the correct direction that I'm here to go. Or just being like, oh, the higher purpose in general for me experiencing this thing was X. And so being able to look back over all of those times and see that everything that I've experienced has always been in alignment and has always had a higher purpose, whether it just comes through the form of teaching me what works and what doesn't work, teaching me what I want and what I don't want, right? Because this too is also about receiving.
Mm.
And so it's like, well, if I'm here to be the receptacle, if I'm here to be that place for energy to flow into and creation to flow in through and direction to flow into, where do I want to go? What do I want to receive and what do I not want to receive? And so within that, it creates this level of deep trust, and it really does blossom into that acidic awareness of unity, because I'm like, oh, like I can trust that no matter what I do, even when I make a mistake, that it's not this like crazy end all be all, like I'm not lost forever. I haven't thrown myself so far off of my path that I've completely messed up the trajectory of my life, which like this energy, and when we're in that shadow state, like it can be so this feeling of distrust, this feeling of dislocation can get so big to where it can cause those deep levels of melancholy and depression where you're like, I have fucked everything up. Like there's no getting out of this hole, oh my god. And it's just like this kind of like black hole feeling. But then having those moments where it kind of cycles back around and you see the higher purpose, the freshness comes in, the beauty comes in. It really anchors you into that state of everything is connected. There is a higher purpose to everything. And if that's the case, then all I have to do, all my job really is to lean into that softness, to lean into that trust, to lean into that surrender, and be willing to take my place within the greater whole.
Mm, I love it. And I love that whole point. I mean, Gene Keys is just genius, but I love that the city and what you said about the city of unity is because even in human design, I mean, the G center has to do with love, and they don't really talk about this at length in all parts of human design, but really like the idea of love is like that's this thing that's pulling us forward through life towards true alignment through the unit, true like to the unity of the universe, basically. And so I can understand too why in the shadow of that, then why you would feel like your entire life is falling apart because you're like, oh no, I have gotten off of this path, which is so important to me as someone with gate two. That's like such a prime theme in your life. I've gotten off this path and I'm never gonna fucking get back on the path, right? Like I saw a flower off on the path that it would be fun to pick, and I went and like, where's the path now? And I'm just in darkness. So all of that makes so much sense. And I think this is a really good, like, just insight for somebody who, especially who has this in their chart, but anybody who's maybe going through a transit right now too, right? Because especially if you're like, you have an undefined G center like Destiny or I do, and like you're already dealing with the fact that you may not always feel that you have consistent, like a consistent trajectory or path in your life during those transits, you're going to be impressed with that energy, and it might feel like a pressure a little bit to find that. But at the end of the day, you will be on the correct path for you. And if you are following what feels right in alignment for you, even if you do hit those stumbling blocks on the way with some three line energy or some six line energy or whatever, you can never really not be on the path anymore. And it's really cool. And it's great because people like Destiny who have lived through this can really remind us of that. And I want to say too that actually Destiny has she has so many gates coming off of her G center. I've said before too, it's like this cosmic joke to me that you don't have a defined G center, that you're a reflector because you have so many gates, except I think gate 46. So how are you still a reflector? But when we come together in a composite chart, we definitely do have a defined G center because I have gate 14, which is the harmonic gate for gate 2, and is about creating resources, like the energy for resources. And so it is cool because you mentioned that gate 2 is about receiving. Would you like to talk a little bit about that interplay with gate 2 and gate 14? Because you know someone too who has gate 14 who's close to you in your life.
Yes. Yeah. So that kind of goes into the aspect of receiving. And when we look at the gate two through the lens of human design, it is, very much in alignment with Gene Keys in terms of like it being the seat of the magnetic monopole. It is literally the driver. So it doesn't matter, and especially because this is a part of like the prime yin and yang um, energies that make up everything. If you have this gate or don't have this gate, this energy is still there. It is still operating. Like it is still a fundamental point of awareness that is going to be so, so, so helpful for you to just remember and anchor into on this journey. But within human design, it also speaks to that receptive being kind of the receptacle that receives the power skills, the life force energy of that gate 14, and then knows how to take those resources and spend them for the highest, best good of all. And yes, I have somebody in my life who has that 14, and I have definitely, through the course of our time together, I have 100% been in this energy of helping this person to spend their resources in a way that does create like benefit and impact. Like, the from again, because the two and the one are tied together, like from being like, hey, like all of the stuff that you have in your kitchen is in deep entropy, like this is 10 years old. Like I broke it or it broke itself around me because it knew it was time to go. But like, all right, like we need to like get this stuff that's in the state of entropy, the things that are dying out of here, and bring like fresh life into the house, And so there's been like that kind of side of it. And then I would say kind of more of the shadow side of this, especially for me again, because I've got in the line three. The line three kind of connects to shame. And for me, I have had people in my life, namely my parents, who shamed me for the amount of resource, for the resources that I living, made that were needed to keep me living.
How dare
And
you?
I, how dare me? And it was always this like aspect of guilting me, or me just like feeling like there was something wrong because maybe we didn't have money, at times, or things that I would receive. Again, third line, bonds made and broken. Like I've even talked about this before with someone too, of like I had these experiences of like we went to the like this place called like Rent a Center, and it was where you would like rent furniture. And we would rent furniture and I would get nice things for a while, but then there would always come a time where that then would have to go back. And so it like it created this very weird dynamic within me of like not trusting that I could receive things or feeling guilty that I could
Mm.
receive things, or in my partnership having this dynamic where his 14, his power, his resources have literally allowed me to align to my higher purpose and start living it out, because I have not been the one that's had to go out and spend 40 hours plus a week working to create money and then try to have the time on the side to do the thing. Like his resources have powered me, and I have had to go through this journey of being willing to receive that and not feel bad for it. Like there has been so much guilt that I have felt or shame that I have felt around receiving and being like taken care of in that way, which then like moves into dynamics of like the feminine and like, you know, our history as the feminine and always being taken care of in this way. And, you know, potentially feeling like, um, controlled by that, or right, like there's all this like the history with the feminine and how for so long, you know, for as long as we can remember, and a lot of the history we've got in our mind is like the feminine has been taken care of, has been provided for by the masculine's resources, right? Or other people's resources. And so I think that that's kind of like beautiful to like what I talked about earlier of like where we're at and the higher purpose of it all and the higher divine timing of it all, for us to be in this state, especially as, you know, women, because again, this is the divine feminine gate, to be in this state where we are getting to be very selective about what we are willing to receive and what we're not, what feels good to receive and what we're not. And also like leaning into this state of like it's okay to receive. And I know for me, I've had to, especially as I've gone through my journey with being an entrepreneur and working for myself, being in this state of like feeling so strange. And I'm like, yeah, I'm here and I'm working for myself and I'm doing all of this in this very like soft and feminine way, all the while knowing the only reason why I'm able to do that is because somebody else is fueling me with their resources.
Mhm. But can I say something too, just like to put
Yeah.
in for anybody who has a hanging gate too? So no gate 14, like Destiny. I have hanging gate 14. And it's funny because you were telling me about someone who was like, I wish I had a partner who I could just like spend money on. And I was like, I can't fucking imagine that. I cannot imagine wanting to do that. But that's actually not true. Because with gate 14 being in the sacral center, when I'm doing something I love, when I am producing resources through doing what is correct for my sacral center, there is zero resentment in me doing that work for someone else or helping give them resources through what I have created. If I like it and I've done it because I'm like, I like this or I love you, right? Like you're a yes to my sacral center, you're a yes for me to do things for, then there's zero resentment. And gate 14 is like, let me give this to you. Like, this needs to go somewhere. And also, you're helping me put this somewhere, right? Because, especially, I mean, I don't know if you've noticed that you attract people like this, but for me, with gate 14, my thing has often been like, it's not that I'm not, okay, I don't know if I'd call myself a visionary, right? Like, I just really love doing the stuff. And then I'm like, but like, where do I go with this? I think that I mean, I do have an undefined G center, so I'm kind of always looking for the next direction. But in particular, it's like, where do I put my stuff, right? What are the steps? How is this coming together? Where, like, I am the vehicle. I need the person who is the key to like turn it in and help me drive this somewhere.
Mhm.
And so, anyone who's listening who has gate two and you're like, I am a black hole for resources. You're not necessarily, right? I mean, Gate 2 does like to spend money, and that's like it's supposed to, right? So it can do this most effectively. You just have to follow your strategy and authority or live in alignment with what's right for you, and it will be taking you to the right place, even if maybe you can't see why right now. But that's just a perspective from someone with the opposite gate.
No, I so appreciate that. And I think it's really helpful to have, in contrast and in unison and unity with understanding this, because it really does, like when we're talking about, this higher aspects of unity and like understanding, like, okay, when we're looking at unity, we're understanding that we are all one. We are all, you know, fragments, spokes in a wheel. We are all these different, kind of like fractal shards and representation, like unique representations of aspects of the whole, right? Like the whole, everything, God, source, whatever you want to, however you want to say it. And so it's like, okay, understanding that that is that ocean, that field of oneness, and that higher purpose and higher direction, right? And so if you take that and then you consider, like, okay, so, like what you just said about the resources and the power skills, your energy generate, like doing things that are correct for you, that light your sacral up, that give you energy and that generate resources that then are like, they're designed to be spent. They're designed to be poured into a cup to be received. Nothing is created that isn't designed to then be received by another aspect of life. And so if you're here just creating, just generating, you're going to be sitting and you don't have that gate two. Then what it is you're looking for is, you're looking for, okay, what is the higher purpose to me doing this? Where is my place within the whole? Where do I fit in? Why am I here? Why do I exist? Why am I doing these things? And the way in which you figure that out and you find that sense of higher purpose is through then hooking up to that gate two, finding your direction, finding your orientation, finding where you're supposed to be, and how you're meant to be using these resources, so you can kind of uncover that higher purpose there. Because there is no one living, there is no thing living that does not have and is not here to serve a higher purpose. So for you, you're generating that and then you're going, okay, but why am I doing that? What's the purpose of me being here and doing all of this if it's not for a higher purpose? And it's like, yeah, I'm sure it would feel so good to just be all of a sudden become a billionaire, but why are you becoming a billionaire?
Hmm.
You're getting all of those resources so you can then spend them, so then other people and avenues and containers can be receptacles for that. Otherwise you're blocking the flow, right? If you're just consuming, like taking in or generating, and your power's growing bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, it's needing to go somewhere. Otherwise, like, it'll eventually just explode. So yes, it's
Explode.
explode. It's a part
Yeah.
of a tantric channel too. We're just gonna drop that in there, just saying. On the note
Yeah.
of explode, it's a part of a tantric channel. So it's also funny too, because I've had this conversation with my current partner, and like, to understand that, like, so we're talking about like the tantric channels. We're talking about all three channels that flow between the sacral up to the G center, which is the life force energy flowing up and connecting into love and connecting into higher purpose and direction. So there's this tantra there, right? There's this kind of like it tantra, you know what it is. If you don't, look it up. But one of the things that we talked about is, like, there is this sense of love generated and created, and like sensuality, not in necessarily, I mean, it's kind of like the whole it's like a sugar daddy and sugar baby type vibe.
A little
But
bit.
like, in the highest regard, in the highest, most beneficially aligned light for all. And so there is this, like, this love that is generated, this intimacy that is generated between, the person who is here to generate those resources, and then the person who is here to receive them.
Hmm. And if I can say one other thing too, what you made me think of, I know we're gonna wrap this up soon, but one thing you really made me think of was how there's really no point besides, like taking care of yourself and obviously living a good life, but chasing money if there is no like higher purpose. And obviously, money is a kind of resource. So with gate 14, yeah, you could probably produce a lot of that. But again, like, where is this going and where is this taking you at the end of the day? Gate two helps give that higher meaning and that higher purpose, bringing you towards beauty and love and connection and unity, like we were talking about. So it's such a powerful thing. And, I thank you for all of your gate two power and how it's helped me and how it's helped so many other people. And thanks for sharing all this.
Yeah, you're welcome. I think the only thing that you haven't stopped, right? Okay, good.
No.
The only thing that I would add is I really think it's important to understand the aspects of divine timing. And I know you
Mm,
and I have had plenty of conversations, like funny conversations,
yeah.
about this of like the divine timing of things and how divine timing and surrender like dance back and forth. And so, um, especially if you're somebody who has this gate defined, but again, even if you don't, to really like lean into that trust and surrender and that softness, like that feminine essence, is to also understand that there is a divine timing to everything. And if something is not happening in your life, it's okay that it's not happening. If it is happening, it's okay that it's happening. And like this can be, so silly as like an example to think of for like you and I of like, hey, we were supposed to record this podcast at this time. And I'm like, actually, something came up. Can we push it? Or can we do it then? And you were going to be like, oh, well, actually, I've got something to do. But then you look at your phone and your mom had just texted you and been like,
Yeah.
actually, we can switch it to this day. And it's like, oh, look, everything worked out.
Yeah.
And that is something that happens to me in my work with like doing readings and stuff. And I always, if it ends up coming up, if I've got clients and we've rescheduled, I always end up telling them like, hey, just so you know, like there is an essence and an aspect of divine timing here that I have seen it so many times where I've had clients like we've had to reschedule and we've had to reschedule so many times that it takes us months. Or I had one client that literally like she rescheduled a few times and then it just like forgot about it. And it literally was like, this has only happened once to this degree, but like 3 years later, I finally just gave her the session. I was like, okay, I will not normally do that, but but anyway, so it's like every single time that's happened, I've had so many clients who were like, "Oh my God," like I was getting kind of like I wasn't trusting that maybe this was supposed to happen or not, but something happened in the last 3 weeks in between when we rescheduled these last two times. And if that thing hadn't have happened, I wouldn't be able to fully receive the information or to fully understand the information that you're giving me right now. So, oh my God, I'm so grateful. Or the thing that happened then redirected why I wanted to come here and what we wanted to talk about. And it became something that was like so much more valuable for that person to receive.
You want to know something funny?
Of course.
We were supposed to record last week, and the day that you texted me, I was about to get on, or I was planning on getting on. It was like an hour beforehand, and I was like, I am so tired. It's like, I'm so tired. I'm just gonna have to power through this. And then you texted me and you're like, hey, I'm not gonna be able to make it. And I was like, wow, Destiny, it's pretty
Oh,
inconsiderate of you, but okay. No, I was like, all right, fine. But yeah, it's happened so many times with us.
yeah.
And I love that kind of thing, especially I'm going off on a little bit of a tangent here, but with Gate 5, it's not exactly the same thing, but there is a little bit of the whole timing thing with Gate 5 because the shadow is impatience and then the gift is patience. And so I love when things work out better because there was like a scheduling conflict or something that looked like there was a delay. And I'm like, huh, I got something even better because of this. Like, I love looking at life. Like, maybe it's because it just wasn't the right time. And then being shown that that was the case. It's so cool.
Yeah. Yeah, one of the things that he says in Jinkies is like making so the again, so if we're saying like the perception of being in the wrong place at the wrong time, doing the wrong thing is merely an illusion that you're allowed to experience to gain whatever it is you're going to gain from it. But he says that decisions made from fear create a different result and have a different impact than decisions made in trust. And so, like your example, if you would have tried to power through it and I didn't honor what happened in my life that day to make me say like, "Hey, this is just not the best for me. Like we need to reschedule this." whatever we came here to co-create together to then give to your community would have not been in a highest alignment best thing for them to receive, right? There would have been some level of sure there still would have been value, but would it have been like the best we could do? Probably not. And so yeah, that's just like, I think if I can impart like anything, one little tidbit about this energy is please, please, please trust yourself, trust the feelings in your body, because this is like the divine feminine, like it can also be related to like our feminine cycles. Like when you're like, you're hot in the middle of your period, are you gonna like, do you want to get up and do these massive projects and all these things? Like, no, everything in your body is pulling you inward and is saying, now is not the time. And that is so much, it's so very, so mirrors how this gate two works. And if you read the gene key of it, he'll talk about this in there, that you have this internal timing mechanism within you that tells you, that helps kind of relay, are you in the flow or are you out of the flow? And I've had so many instances where that's happened, where I've been like, I'm so tired that I literally, like, I can't. Like, I know if I show up, this is going to be a shit reading. Like, let me not. I have integrity, so let me reschedule this. I'll reschedule, and then the fog lifts, and all of a sudden I have energy. And I'm like, okay, all right. And then again, it always ends up being one of those times where we then figure out later on that, oh, we needed to reschedule for X, Y, and Z purpose. But you never know. And that's like when you look into the full channel of this, you never know the higher purpose or reasoning until after the fact. Right? You're just responding, you're just trusting, and then the higher purpose is then revealed later.
Yeah. Yeah.
So no matter what it looks like, trust yourself and trust that you will get to where you are meant to go, and that you will receive everything you are meant to receive. And you will get there so much faster and with so much less resistance in that state of trust versus in the state of fear and distress.
Preach. Um, can I get a testify? Um, yeah, and thank you for making sure that we talked about that piece about the timing because that was really, really important. So I'm glad we covered it. But anyway, I think that should be it for today. We could probably talk for like hours about pretty Destiny and I could talk about hours for anything because she has an undefined sacral and we both have undefined throat centers. Um, but anyway, you rock so much. Thank you for joining us. Everyone listening, you rock, and I will talk to you next time.